So hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Norma Mbaliwe and this channel is for creatives who want to make a career from their passions. So this is the second Q&A on my channel. The first one was a general Q&A that people asked me. So this is a writing Q&A. I asked people on Instagram and WhatsApp to ask me questions about writing. I think these are questions that writers generally want to know about each other. I'm going to answer the questions that you asked. So I have my questions here and they're actually much more than my previous Q&A. So I'm going to be like as brief as I can be, but also still giving like information that you want to know. So the first question is, where do you get writing ideas from? I've wanted to write for a long time, but I've not had any good ideas lately. The problem people have with ideas is that people expect it to come at once, like everything. You can have an idea and you can build over it for years and decades. So the novel that I'm currently working on, I've had the idea for like 2 years. So I just decided to start writing it. So because you get the idea and you start building on the premise and everything. So the next question is, when did you start writing? Okay, so I have written like all my life. So I cannot remember a time that I was not writing. I think the time that I really wanted to become a writer professionally was in secondary school. They realized that, okay, there are actually people who made money writing, and it was just like not a hobby, because I just used to write before just as, okay, I used to read a lot of books and I used to have ideas, and I just, okay, let me just entertain myself and write the stories that are in my head. So that's how it started, and that's how it still is, but I still want to pursue it professionally, and that's my answer. So the next question is 2-in-1. Biggest advice to writers, and what if someone does not like your work? How do you react, or how to react? So the first question, biggest advice to writers. I still need advice, but I think the biggest advice to a writer is to write, like just write. If you are thinking that, okay, I need to write, or you're watching videos or you're reading books on how to write and you're not actually writing, because the more you write, the more you get better, the more you grow as a writer. So I think that's my biggest advice, like just write. Don't spend more time thinking about writing and actually writing. Then the second part is, what if someone does not like your work? How do you react? I feel like, okay, there are different styles of writing and some people like different styles. So even there are books that have won so many awards that you yourself, if you read them, you might not like them. So if someone does not like the way you write, is it that maybe it's just a different style? Some people have different styles of reading, so different styles of writing. So if there's someone who doesn't like your work, you don't need to start worrying that, okay, maybe my work is not good enough, or be angry that they don't like your work or they don't see the potential in your work. Or also there will be times that somebody can read your work and they notice that it's not quality. So you should be able to know the difference, like when somebody does not like reading the style of books that you write, and when somebody thinks that your work is not quality. So you should be able to differentiate between the two. Are there times that you don't like to write? I love writing, but I know my writing is not that good. Is there a solution, or should I just give up? Because I read a lot and what I write is not as good as what I read. So are there times you don't like to write? Yes, I think everybody has a time where they don't like doing the things that they want to do, because writing is work and it's a lot of work, even though some people just think it's fun. But it's fun sometimes, but it's not just all fun. So there are sometimes that I don't like to write, so I take a break. But there are sometimes that you know that you're supposed to write, so even if you don't feel like writing, sometimes you just have to write. Then the second part of the question is, what I write is not as good as what I read. So sometimes I'm reading a novel and I'm like, am I sure that this is for me? Because I read a novel and it's like so well done, so poetic, so beautiful, and I'm like, what I'm writing and what I'm reading are not the same thing. So that's where that style comes into play. Sometimes some people are much more poetic about their stories and others are not, and everything else in between. So I think when you are reading a lot, you know the kind of standard there is in books generally, and if you are writing what doesn't really fall into that standard. I saw a video before, the girl was talking about like, as well, your taste is high but your work is not high, something like that. So you have good taste in books, like you know when a book is good, but when you write your own book, it doesn't meet up to that quality. So you just need to continue writing until you can get into that high quality, as good as your tastes. I hope you understand. So how did you get better as a writer? That's like my other listing. Just write and read. Because if you want to be a writer, I don't know how to write, or you want to learn how to write, read a lot and you write. How's your screenwriting? You have not posted anything about it lately. So I'm a screenwriter apart from being a novelist. If you're not listening to my podcast, I mentioned a lot about my screenplays, and for a while before the lockdown, I used to write mostly short stories because I just felt that novel ideas had gone away from me. That was like from that 2018 time to like 2020, I did not write any novel. And before then, that was in secondary school, I wrote novellas. I can't classify them as novels. So once I graduated from secondary school, I did not have novel ideas, or maybe I just did not want to think about it. So I wrote a lot of short stories. So it was during the lockdown that I found out about screenplays and screenwriting, and I started screenwriting because it just seemed so interesting. But the thing was that I never finished any screenplay. I could start like a million screenplays, but I never finished because I always got stuck on screenplays. Now I know better, like I should finish it. Like once I'm done with this novel that I'm working on now, I will go back to my one screenplay and at least complete it. So I never finished a screenplay. So and I saw one advice like this, that if you are struggling with your screenplays, maybe you should just write it as like a short story so that I can just understand just like the most important plot points. Just write it in a short story form and you'll be able to translate it into your screenplay form. So I started a screenplay called Azrael and I was stuck on it. So I decided, okay, let me just make it into a short story. And I was writing prose, he said this, she said this, all this, until it was actually becoming, I decided to turn it into a novel. I actually ended up finishing Azrael, the novel, and I finished it October 2021. So screenplay, screenwriting, it has been on a pause for now because I started a new novel November 2021, and that's the one that I'm currently working on, and I'm on the second draft. So once I finish this novel, Oge's Custodian, I will write a screenplay. I already have like a bunch of screenplay ideas that I've been thinking of, so I'll just pick one and actually sit down and finish it. Next question is self-publishing or traditional publishing. I think every writer asks themselves, like, once you know that somebody is a writer and they're writing poems or they're writing novels, you just want to know, are you going to self-publish your book or are you going to submit it to publishers? So before 2020, I was all for traditional. Like, I didn't even know anything about self-publishing. I did not know anything about self-publishing, so I want to submit it to secondary school. I had a book of list of publishers in Nigeria. I had a book. I had their numbers with their address and emails. I had like, I think it was up to like 50 something that I had in a book like this, and like let's say 50% of them were in Ibadan. I don't know why there are a lot of publishers in Ibadan. Well, I had so many. Then obviously there's Cassava Republic and Kachifo. I had so many publishers that I was ready to submit secondary school. So it was all for traditional. Then lockdown came and I heard about self-publishing, and I heard about the pros and the cons. Like, even though it was like much more stressful, I felt that self-publishing was the way to go because you had all the rights. Like, it was your story, so you had all the rights. You had the foreign rights, you had the movie rights, so nobody can cut corners with you if you are self-published. But how you get those rights if you don't have like a large audience of readers? So that's also what traditional publishing brings. So at the moment, I'm like in between. I'm thinking maybe I should be like a hybrid author. I will publish some traditional, some self-publishing. But my mind is, I'm like tipping like 60% towards self-publishing. But I know it's going to be a lot of work. I'll probably make a video when I'm ready to publish, whether I submit traditionally or self-published. So you guys tell me, like, which one do you think you want to do, self-publishing or traditional publishing? Like, and let me know why. Like, I want to be able to rub minds with you guys to see which one you prefer. Best genres to write and read. So I love thrillers. Anything that will make my heart beat and like be scared. Not horror, but thrillers, just something very suspenseful and dangerous. I like danger, so I like reading those. Then, do I write poetry? No, I don't write poetry, but I've tried. But is not it. Outline or pants. I'm an outliner, but I think I outline like from the first act to like the middle of the second act. Then I outline. I know the end. So it's that middle that you're like confused, and that's the problem I have with my story right now. I'm working on the second draft, and I'm realizing that that middle is very muddled up. So I outlined the first maybe 40% of the novel and the last 15%, but that middle is very, I just do as my heart pleases. Ebook, hardback, or both. If it's reading, I like reading hardbacks. If it's publishing, I prefer hardbacks too, but everybody reads ebooks now, so both then. How do you make money writing? I'm a ghostwriter. But before that, I used to submit for competition, so it was not like a livable, but it was just like a side hustle, just submitting, looking for competitions and writing and submitting. And if I'm part of the first 3, I get prizes depending on how big the competition was. So ghostwriting. Then, when do you think it's time for you to let a story go? I have a story idea that I've been working on since secondary school, but I still want to write it. If you still want to write it, write it. But sometimes you pick a story that is too much for you. Like the first novel that I wrote, the one I completed October 2021. I completed it, but I knew that I had issues. So I did not even bother editing because I felt that the story was too much for my first novel. It was about human trafficking and so many deep things that I knew were too much for me, and my 20 to 21 brain could not handle. Even though it was just how many months ago, but I'm still going to keep it until whenever, if I want to pick it up again, I can pick it up. So even if you have a story idea for 30 years, it's still okay. So if you're not ready to let it go, don't let it go. You can just pause it until it's ready. The next question is on motivation. I have so many story ideas, but I never write them. Like, how do I get the motivation to start? If you have a story idea and you're not working on something, just write it. It can be a short story, it can be a novel. Just write it, because even if you have the motivation to start, writing is a lot of work. And if you start, you might not end up finishing it. So you need to be able to, push yourself there. Know the reason why you want to start. Do you want to see the copy, maybe an ebook copy or a hardback, or you just want to know that I actually finished the story? Because motivation is not going to push you. It can make you start and write maybe the first 2 pages, but after the first 2 pages, it will crash. Before, I have a few Wattpad novels and I never finished them because I was expecting motivation to push me. So you can have story ideas and you don't have the motivation. You just have to have something that will push you more than motivation. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching so far, and subscribe if you're a writer, because I have a lot of writing content that I want to share with everybody, and like this video so that I can spread to more people. And if you're interested, you can watch this video on my NaNoWriMo project. I wrote a 50,000 word novel in November, so watch it to see how I did it. So till next time.